Hello, everybody, and welcome back to LunchBytes. For those of you that don't know, LunchBytes is a bi-weekly live stream focusing on the best technology from Microsoft side in the UK, and we've got some great speakers today. So, first of all, what we expect everybody to be during this live stream. So, be aware of everybody else, be welcoming and respectful, understanding of each other's differences, be friendly and patient. Be open to all questions and viewpoints, and be kind and considerate to others. So today, got myself, so Stephen Adams. I'm a data and AI cloud solution architect. I've been at Microsoft a year and a half now, focusing primarily on OpenAI. Tig, unfortunately, isn't joining us today, but we have Jose instead. So Jose, would you like to do a quick intro of yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everyone. My name is Jose Alonso. I'm a cloud solutions architect, same as Stephen, but in the apps space. So anything around software development best practices or modernizing apps, even integration, that's my domain. And yeah, I'm here to support and guide us through the session as well as with Stephen. Yeah.
Thanks, Jose. And on to our speaker for today, which we've got Steph Locke. So Steph, I'll let you introduce yourself and then take it away.
Hi, folks. Probably my biggest claim to fame is I used to be Jose's manager. So I've been here at Microsoft 2 years last week, and I look after the digital and app innovation technology specialists. I have a very long Microsofty title, but fundamentally we help large organizations connect software engineering and developer productivity to their company goals. So I used to be a data platform and AI MVP. I'm talking about DataOps today, and I'm actually in Wikipedia as one of the first kind of coiners of this term, because I have a lot of passion about bringing rigor and business value alignment to our data and AI products. And that's where I picked up the vast majority of my software engineering capabilities, was doing data better. So I'm hoping today I can convince you to do data a bit better yourselves.
Amazing. Well, thanks so much for joining us today. And with that, we'll hand over to you for your presentation on DataOps.
Oh yeah. Okay. So today we're going to talk about three things: why do you need DataOps, and what is it? We're then going to look at this from a people and cultural perspective, because that's the most important things: people and processes, then tools. And if we don't get the right culture right, it doesn't matter how fancy your DataOps strategy is, it ain't going to work. So we're going to really focus on some of those pieces. And then we're going to look at what processes would you kind of implement, and what might that look like from a technology perspective. So let's talk about the why and the what. So there's tons of business challenges today around data. Every department has their own preferred Excel spreadsheets or their databases or their report tools. It takes ages for people to move to get the data they need to make an informed decision. People maybe don't trust the data. They don't know who owns it. There's tons of concern around things like GDPR. The data team can't keep up with all the tickets. There's 20 different systems. Nobody knows which one to look at for a report. Everybody's kind of getting their own analysts or trying to build their own solutions. And generally speaking, inside most organizations, everybody wants data, but there's a huge amount of challenges involved with the existing data and trying to get it to the end users. And especially salient right now because everybody, or nearly everybody, is thinking about AI. Is as much as you can get off-the-shelf solutions from Microsoft and others, it's still only going to be as good as your data. Even the Microsoft 365 Copilot is only going to be able to get information from relevant documents if your documents are well structured and up to date. So it really matters if you're thinking about AI that you think about your data and how you can work with it more effectively. So what are the top struggles? So it is 92% because of people, processes, and culture as a challenge. They want to reduce duplication and holding of data. They want to improve how they can access it, increase quality. They see poor data management as some of the challenges, data processing, insufficient collaboration. Lots of blockers that are really kind of fundamental to how we orchestrate data and approach it, from who owns it, who looks after it, and what processes do we put in place to manage this really vital business asset. So a lot of leaders right now are thinking about how do we make sure that different areas of our business get the right insights that they need to do their job? How do we streamline the ecosystem, the tools that are being used, so that people have less learning curve, less context switching, and less cognitive burden about trying to remember where things are at? And how do we leverage fewer assets for more return on that investment? We don't want to keep spending an extra few million on another new tool that will only be used by a few people. So can we get efficiencies? So we can, when we're talking about DataOps and when we're talking about our general data strategy, what we're looking to do is really align to these business value pieces. We can communicate how we have impact and design what we do to have this type of impact. And that's where DataOps comes in. So DataOps kind of extends the developer operations DevOps type movement to be able to focus in on a lot of the needs that we have around data and the fact that data is a long-lived asset. Every record in our database is going to go through its own life cycle. It's going to get changes, it's going to be extended, it might need to be archived, it needs to be backed up, it needs to be restored. There's a really significant difference between our stewardship of data and our stewardship of code. We can use effective stewardship of code to be able to better manage our data, but we also need some additional practices. So with DataOps, we want predictable delivery, change management of data models, and related artifacts. We're looking to, similar to DevOps, look at how we can be more agile, how we can focus on business value, what tools help us support the level of rigor and standardization and automation as possible. We lean heavily on kind of a lean manufacturing principles. So we look at how do we reduce bottlenecks? How do we align to business value? And then possibly one of the biggest distinctions with DevOps, where DevOps is a strong focus on flow and reducing defects, we really need strong quality management and ongoing things like data drift analysis to be able to continue having an effective, trustworthy set of data. There's a lot of different parts of DataOps that you might need to think about inside your business. The first is governance. So what do people think about data? How do they interact with it? Do you have the right foundations, capabilities? Do you share learnings? Do you have the right safety practices? Do you have the right people at an executive level, all the way down to a ground level? How does it fit in to your cloud adoption and broader IT strategy? How are you going to approach technology? Do you go for a tried and true mechanism? Do you take on cutting edge technologies and be experimental? And then last but definitely not least, how do you enable a that all into a comprehensive data strategy that enables everyone in your business to make better decisions? So what does this look like from a people and culture perspective? To build a stronger data culture where people are able to make better informed decisions, we definitely need strong role models. So your data team, your CEO, your CFO, the better we can model data, strong data-driven decision making and care and curation of that data, the better. We need to consider it as a discipline. So it isn't something that we just kind of assume anyone can do. We assume it needs training and support, even at the end user level. We think about it as something that needs rigor, that we skill people up towards, and that we look at not as like a prestigious role above all other roles. But we're not looking for the data team to kind of go Lord of the Flies and take over. But there needs to be some recognition that the value of data and the people who curate it for the organization add deep business value. There is never a perfect state of data. There is always data quality issues. There is always some data that is missing. There is always a report that doesn't meet people's needs entirely. There is always going to be something wrong. We can get disheartened at that and cast blame and say you should be always right. But we can better run a data-driven business when we focus on being better today than we were tomorrow. So yes, data quality is always going to be an issue, if nothing else, because things like customers, they might change their address and it might take them a month to notify us. There's always going to be things that are outside our control. But we can be better by adding additional quality metrics, by supplementing our approach, by doing root cause analysis when there's a problem to understand how we can improve going forward. And we need to adapt. So we want to make sure that we have an expectation that we're not always going to get things right. We might not always know the answer, but we will learn the answer. We will find out. And that often requires some budget. People need subscriptions to things, or they maybe need to go to some conferences. They might need some training. But it is also not just investing in a cash budget, but a time budget. Giving people time to learn, supporting them in that journey, and fostering peer-to-peer learning capability. It's a long journey. You don't become a data-driven organization with a scalable kind of data and analytics capability overnight. So the first thing that I really recommend every organization does is, first of all, focus on governance. If people don't know where data is, where it's from, who's touching it, when it was last updated, and what the quality is, people won't trust it. And without trust, nothing else matters. So the governance piece is really where we want to start. We then look at improving our cross-departmental capabilities, our horizontal data platform, to put a stronger foundation in of shared services. We then start looking at our high-value applications that can enable us to do better at a line of business level or at a central capability. We work through those projects, we learn, and we iterate. So get your foundations right of your governance. Start building a stronger perspective of your central capabilities and how you line up capabilities for line of business businesses, and then be able to deliver and start scaling specific projects and applications that make a difference and align to the real business value. None of this happens without investment in either time or money. To be able to speak in business terms about the value that's going to be yielded by the money and time investments. First, spending time on an enterprise data map. That enables you as an organization to be able to identify opportunities for reducing inefficiencies, for being able to improve your compliance stance, being more GDPR compliant and things like that. So that part of that kind of fundamentals of governance is about a costs and risk reduction exercise. Once we start getting into being able to do some of the more transformative pieces, where we start cycling through high value opportunities, doing the transformation and kind of cycling through, we're going to see continued cost and risk mitigations, but we start being able to see value that comes from productivity gains, from people being able to to unlock new products or new services to customers, improving things like the lifetime value of the customer, increased profitability, and so on. So as we go through and secure and need to secure that investment business value, and as we go along as a data function, we need to be talking about cost reduction, risk mitigation, and things like increased profitability, productivity gains, and really align to real business metrics that showcase the value. I talked earlier about a data culture that starts with leadership. We need to have core priorities that matter, that look at how we're going to change things for the better for people, processes, and tools, and with strong business outcomes. The first part of that might be cost reduction and risk mitigation. Those might be the first business outcomes. We then want do more about fostering of the data culture. So we want to enable as many people as we can to be data driven. So which means resources in learning and hiring the right people. We then look at the right processes to support this. How do we reduce the time to value? How do we make sure that we're continually thinking about business value? And then the technology. How do we make it first and foremost governed and secure? And how do we make it suit the needs of the business? So these are the kind of key things that if you're thinking about writing a data strategy and thinking about things like DataOps, these are the things that I would expect you to be including and really thinking about. On the data ownership topic, we need governance throughout, but we also have a shared responsibility model. So you can think of this like working in the cloud. If you work with Azure, Microsoft is responsible for all the hardware, all the data center pieces. And if you go with a VM, they're responsible for the compute, but you're responsible for what happens inside it. If you go for PaaS, they're responsible for the compute and the platform. You're responsible for how you use it, and so on. You have a shared responsibility model if you're inside your company around data. So you might have the platform and the ETL, the extract, transform, load type core pieces might be owned by the central team. And then once that gets to a certain level of quality to be validated, then that gets exposed to decentralized teams in the business who can then build their own refined data products that meet their needs and expose that data and analytics to their respective domains, which could be like HR, sales, R&D, and so on. So you'll want to build and think about who owns the data or the data products and who's accountable, who's responsible for contributing to it, who needs to be consulted, and who's going to influence it. So you can think about kind of building a RACI matrix, RACI, around ownership. And there's probably some tough questions in there. And again, when we think about ownership, it can be quite emotive. People might not right now feel like they have ownership. People might feel like they own it and get blamed for problems and things. So be prepared for there to be quite a sensitive discussion that, my simple diagram for data ownership might, I could say there be dragons on this topic. You then need data people. You can't build a strong, you can't practice data ops, you can't have a data strategy without people who understand data. This is from a central capability. You need people who understand change management. If you haven't looked at the concept of change management, that is basically whenever a process or a technology changes, people need to be aware of the changes to how they need to do things. They need to adopt it, and that behavior needs to be reinforced so that we continue to get the right behaviors. There's some great frameworks like ProSize, ADKAR model for change management. And it really is worth investing in this capability because we, especially technologists, we think some change is really easy. Like, oh, yay, there's a co-pilot in GitHub. Let's press the button and let's go. But then there's also change that's hard. Like, what about our accountability? Our job description changes. I now get a new role, or I've got a new manager. I've got a new way of doing expenses. And then all of a sudden, change is hard. So when we're in a business context, we need to make sure that we're trying to make changes seem as easy as going, ooh, Copilot, let's play, and encourage the adoption as possible, because change is hard. So we definitely want to invest in some sort of change management capability. We need to look after our data platform. We need to be thinking about our engineering efforts from databases, machine learning, and analytics. Do we have our data scientists, our people who are going to look after the governance and quality of our data? And then inside the line of businesses and kind of our more decentralized capabilities that are going to leverage that central shared foundation, they're going to be staffed to different levels depending on the business appetite, and might also be kind of what we might call data citizens, citizen data scientists, or citizen developers, folks who are interested in using the technology to solve their business problems, but don't necessarily have the full kind of skill set and knowledge of a trained data analyst. And we should invest in those people as well. So then we've covered people and culture, and I genuinely think the people and culture piece is where you're going to get the most value. Change management, investing in education, role modeling key skills, taking a growth mindset that we'll be better tomorrow than we were today, and we'll learn from the things that didn't go so well versus casting blame, are the things that will help us leverage data better for business impact. What does that look like from the fuzzy stuff to the practicalities? What processes do you typically need? How do you put the technology together to make it happen? So we're thinking about this as a mix of managing the processes and the technologies through having a central platform, so the data hub and data fabric, where you have the data, you've got the operations around it, and then you have decentralized capabilities inside the different domains like marketing, innovation, engineering, and so on, where whilst they're governed, they can build their own things that add value to them specifically. So it's kind of like a hub and spoke model. Central IT, central data team still does a lot, and they empower and enable the rest of the business to be able to build what works for them. And this is going to be data from lots of different sources that the central team needs to look for and maintain. And then at the domain level, they might, and kind of that line of business level, they might then think about what are their specific data collection needs, what do they need from a real-time piece, do they need, are they high investors in machine learning, AI capabilities, do they need a lot of reporting? So whilst that will still be in the same governance, security, and compliance pieces, and generally being encouraged to leverage centralized tools, things like Power BI, to be able to get the job done. Each domain becomes empowered to make decisions to locally optimize within that global framework of technology and processes. Part of having that central governed framework and having a strong understanding of what domains are doing and what data sets are needed, we can encourage collaboration by thinking about assets and data sets that multiple people, multiple areas of a business will need, and encouraging collaboration. So the classic thing here, or not classic, but yeah, it's a classic thing, often comes up. What do you mean by a sale? The question of what is a sale is probably different between the sales team, marketing, finance, and operations. For the sales team, it might be when somebody signs a contract. For the marketing team, it's when somebody transacts on the e-commerce. The operations team, it's once something's been dispatched. And finance might think of it as gross revenue from sales less any refunds that have come in the past 30 days. So one of the things that we need to think about is supporting collaboration and standardizing things like definitions and data sets where we can to support improved data usage. So that's, there might be a log of transactions like from the e-commerce site, and that from a shared perspective might get to a certain standard of refinement and data engineering, but then finance might take one spin on it and marketing might take another. But we would then need to encourage that collaboration around finance has a sales definition, marketing has a sales definition. Where can we evangelize for similarities or support them in both ending up with figures that are right for them without them talking at cross purposes? I kind of break down the processes and the associated supporting technology into 3 areas. So we've got our data governance, which is the key bit that is worth most people starting with. Our automated and central platform, our foundation, and then a ecosystem that enables people, different domains, to be able to do impactful things within the scope of the governance, security, and compliance, rather than fostering shadow IT solutions that end up being outside of your governance model. So from the enterprise data governance side, what does that look like? It doesn't matter where your data is. We want to be able to say what data we have, what classification. So is it is it personally identifiable info? Is it confidential? Is it needs to be is it audit data? Where does it come from? Does it come from a third party supplier? What database does it come from? We need to be thinking about things like master data. What does our customer record look like on our on-prem SAP records look like versus all these different CRMs that we've picked up from the acquisition companies we've acquired? What does the governance look like on who can use what? How do we test the quality? How do we do the sharing of data safely? So these are the key processes that I would be starting to look for and try to automate as much as possible from a DataOps perspective. We then need to think about, in the governance piece, around how do people access data? Now, most organizations might have a bunch of people with a load of access to the SQL databases or the operational systems, and some people who have Excel files that other people consume, and or people just sit there creating spreadsheets because they know that there's no way to ask for data. So we need to invest time as part of our governance piece to be able to manage access and also reduce the barrier to requesting access. So if we have things like the data catalog, where it's from and things like that, and we know who's responsible for it, then we can have a request process for people to be able to easily request access. And of course, it's useful if you can do this on a role-based access control type solution. So if the data scientist from the marketing team in child company A asks for access to something, you grant it to all marketers, marketing analysts in child company. When we're thinking about implementing governance, you need to work through readiness, building that foundation, testing it on your first data domain. So maybe working with HR data or finance data, learn from it, and then continue onboarding more data domains from your business. And we'll share these slides afterwards. Any links and things you can click on later. For your central platform, where automation is often quite key, we need the ability to onboard new domains really quickly. So how do you get the HR data space set up, the resources needed in, and the monitoring occurring? How do you start getting that data ingested, standardized, quality managed, and access provisioned? So our goal is to really try and automate as much of this as possible, but you do need to balance the fact that your automation and your level of tooling and kind of central platform should scale with the size of your organization. Inside that automation piece, for pulling in data, standardizing it, and access, we've got two kind of key ways that we can get data, and those are push and pull. So we often actually pull data, we connect to the operational database, we extract the data, and then we can go through successive cleaning processes and things. Other times we're going to get monthly extracts from, say, a credit score provider. Those are going to get pushed to our environment, and we're going to want to have a secure landing space for those data, for that data to land in, be validated, and be moved on. Different processes that we'll need to consider for push versus pull solutions. We're going to want to have a data lake, so a place that we land our disparate data sources into, and then be able to conform that data as much as we can for use by different parts of the business. And then what does that look like from an ecosystem perspective? So we talked earlier about the different domains and the central foundation. Each domain is going to need their own environment. We need to think about the automation. We need to support the different types of analytics capabilities for them. And they need to be able to get stuff done. We can think about that support from the types of analytics that they're going to do. So do they just need to get it? Do they need to be able to do basic operational reporting? Do they need to be able to do AI? So we can think about the ingestion and curation as being our central shared backbone or a foundation of our solution that our central data team works on. And then they also support the vending of capability for the different domains to be able to do the different types of analytics. We have different tasks that people need to be able to perform for those different types of analytics. And we have different tools to do so, to perform those tasks. Inside Microsoft, we've got lots of data products. But the key thing is that you have not a prescriptive, rigid view as to capabilities that people can use in their different domains, but you want to have a think about what are the recommended tools and access methods that you can automate, support, and scale within your organization. And if you can unify that tech stack down, all the better. The simpler we can make it for people to be data-driven, the easier it'll be to deliver impact. And finally, we're seeing this, this kind of idea of a centrally governed platform and the ability to spin up domains more quickly, securely, and governed with Microsoft Fabric. We're able to bring in data, including in a virtualized way with our OneLake, and then be able to spin up all the different kind of capabilities to do the different types of analytics. So we're making investments in the technology stack to help align better to this kind of shared model of central capability and decentralized capability. So that is it for me. I think I managed to just about stay in time. To recap, DataOps is how we align our people, processes, and tools to drive impactful business value. To support that, people and culture always come first. We then built processes which include key governance capabilities, a shared foundation, and a unified ecosystem within which people can develop data products at scale. This is a journey of multiple years. There's going to be roadblocks, there's going to be trials and tribulations, but it's really worth it for helping us deliver better business value, whether that's simple cost reduction and risk mitigation through to opening up new avenues, new ways of doing business. So hopefully I've convinced you. I see we have some questions.
Yes.
Jose, I will, and Stephen, I'll let you ask the questions and keep me to time.
Yes. Can you hear me properly?
Yep.
Absolutely. Okay, great. You made really good points in the sense that people and processes are a core part of all of this, same as with DevOps. And I think many organizations unfortunately forget that part and then end up in a blocker or something is not flowing as it should be. And these challenges might be different from different sizes of organizations. So someone is asking, my organization barely has any reports. How do I convince them to use the DataOps?
Yeah, so I'm going to assume this is a small organization,
Yeah.
because I don't think I've ever seen a large organization that isn't overwhelmed with the number of different reports offering different perspectives on their data.
Yeah,
In a small organization, you probably don't have a big data team. You don't want to say, hey, in 2 years, I'm going to have this all singing, all dancing, super automated solution to vend tons of data stacks for us all. You don't want to take that approach. When we're thinking about DataOps for those smaller organizations which are starting their journey to making decisions with data, I would actually start looking at, historically my answer would be Power BI, but now it would be kind of Power BI with a Fabric lens, where we think of conforming data, starting to conform data in a very prototype kind of rapid analytics type of way. So Power BI now has source control. Get Power BI under source control, but start building strong reports that enable people to do their jobs, and start basically standardizing and conforming the data behind the scenes, and just start building the rigor into the process of conforming the data and presenting it in the short term.
Yeah. I'm assuming also it comes with some advantages being smaller, in the sense that there might not be that much organizational overhead and red tape to kind of implement these best practices that you were talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can still do things like very simply of, you can start off with a resource group per department and some quick bicep files and things, right? And you just continue iterating over time, adding the level of safety rails and governance that you need each time.
Yes, at the end, it's all about that developer / data engineer / data scientist / data whatever velocity, right? So that definitely helps, and again, as you said, make things as easy as you can, and iteratively expand that MVP kind of thing, right?
Absolutely, because we're never going to get a perfect solution.
Yeah. There is another question. How does Fabric fit into all of this? You quickly mentioned Fabric, so how does that fit into this?
Yeah, Fabric has a great opportunity to help bring that unified ecosystem really to life. So over the years, we've had SQL Server with the BI stack, there's Power BI, there's Tableau, Tableau, Click. We've got different database vendors. We've got like Google Data Studio. There are thousands and thousands of data software products out there, and not all of them play nicely. Even at times, Microsoft stuff hasn't played as nicely as we'd like it. And Fabric has a really ambitious roadmap and some great technologies underpinning it to help make it far easier to surface data that is from all sorts of sources in a conformed, governed way, and be able to start building those domain models with a singular ecosystem that still should manage plug and play with others. Like, you bring in the database, you're not actually taking copies, you cut down your ETL, but then you can access that database from the Fabric layer with Power BI or Excel or Synapse.
Absolutely.
And bring all these different tools in.
I feel that Fabric kind of hints you and guides you towards those best practices in itself. So yes, you need to understand how these are implemented, especially on an organization point of view. But it's really good to have that tool that gives you that perspective already. Yeah. We've heard about AI ops, DevSecOps, anything ops, ML ops. Why do we need a new word for this? What's the value?
I started thinking about DataOps when all I ever heard was DevOps. And it'd be developer this, developer that, ops teams worrying about VMs and things. And frankly, it was alienating. Like, I was worrying about my code coverage. I was writing unit tests. I was doing this and that. And like, I had infrastructure as code. I want RM minus R slash rather than RM minus R dot, and killed an entire VM with recursively killing things. And I got my data products up within less than 30 minutes, right? Like after killing my environment. I'd been doing all of these things, and it felt like a lot of the considerations for data and analytics and AI people's experiences were not covered, not considered, and also the stateful nature and kind of the physical asset, the quasi-physical asset management that you need to do in data was just kind of not represented. So the DevOps tools, DevOps capabilities form a absolute core of DataOps. But we need some additional considerations for the fact that, you kind of have to be more conservative about data because it's a physical asset and makes such a huge impact. So we have additional practices and considerations. And that's why, as much as it is kind of a new buzzword, it helps us better scope to the realities, daily experience of data folks. And I'm using like data, AI, ML.
Exactly. I feel like everything comes from the DevOps, DevSecOps, and then we're adding lenses to tackle specific problems such as ML with MLOps and things like that. So I do see the value, but those core best practices come from DevOps, and then you enhance it for that specific context. That's how I view it.
Yeah. And if you think about it, right, DevSecOps is there because people kept forgetting about the security pieces, effectively the operational compliance and pieces when they were talking about DevOps, and it was leading to a potentially dangerous place.
We always say that the sec is silent in DevSecOps, but it should be there. It should be there. So always keep that in mind. And thank God we have now options with things like advanced security on GitHub and things like that. That makes my life so much easier. I think these are all the questions. I think, Stephen, there's one regarding.
Yes. So about the PowerPoint deck, we'll put that in the description after this session gets uploaded properly to YouTube. But yeah, I guess one final question from me actually for you, Steph. So anybody watching either live or on demand a bit later is they've heard all about DataOps, but I guess how can they get started, and what steps can they take to start heading towards a more DataOps organization?
Yeah. I actually think it's the soft skills. most data folks can absolutely like go learn how to do continuous integration and things like that, and think about unit testing and learn bicep. But the bits that are really hard and the bits that need substantial investment in is change management, organizational psychology, how do you scale learning practices? And this is also, as well as thinking about it from the big organization perspective, this is also a personal journey for data folks as well. How do you, as the report person, communicate the value that you're having? How do you help the people who are using what you build do a better job? How do you release changes? Do you just expect people to kind of pick it up, to go press a button that they never pressed before when so many people worry about breaking things? So invest in your understanding of change management, organizational psychology, agile, and also put yourself a bit through the ringer to kind of reflect on how you do things.
Amazing. Great answer. Well, thank you, Steph, for your time today. Thanks so much for answering those questions as well. And we'll hope to see you again on LunchBytes soon.
I'm a regular. I love it. Can't go wrong with LunchBytes. Viva la LunchBytes.
Amazing. Thank you, Steph. So,
bye, everyone.
So we've got a couple other things to cover before the end of the session. So community callouts. So if you want to find your local community, I think the Reactor were actually in the London office yesterday doing a big community event. Go to aka.ms/UK community. Or if you want to get in touch, feel free to reach out to myself and the team on lunchbytes@microsoft.com. And then one useful bite. So if you're already working with us, if you contact your account team about training options, and also check out our other episodes at aka.ms/lunchbytes. Again, feel free to drop us a note for anything else. But yes, so thanks for tuning in to LunchBytes this week, and we will see you again in 2 weeks' time.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.